Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I am your host, Jim Wigan with Athearn. So glad to have you on board. I hope you're enjoying your summer. In fact, depending on when you're watching this, and if you're part of the United States, in a few days, we'll be celebrating the Independence Day holiday. So for all of my fans out there that celebrate, happy 4th of July. Keep it safe and definitely keep hydrated. It is definitely hot out there. Oh, one other thing, if it gets too hot, you can always come in and work on the layout where it's nice and cool. So with that being said, what are we going to be talking about in this episode? Well, we're going to be talking about Athearn Genesis, both HO as well as N-Scale, and we're also going to be talking about Athearn HO. So a pretty good diverse selection of products tonight. However, they all have one thing in common, and that is they're all covered hoppers. So if you're a fan of covered hoppers, you're really going to enjoy this show. And like always, if you enjoy the content that you see here delivered on a weekly basis, please do us a favor. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video like this drops to the channel. And you can also comment. I can't promise that I'm going to answer every comment out there, but we do like the interaction and hear what you guys are working on and what you like, and sometimes even what you don't like. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with Train Tuesday. And we're going to talk about our Genesis models first. Now, we offered these models as an announcement back in roughly September, October of 2023. And we offered them in a couple of different versions, and we're going to talk about them right now. These are due to hit hobby shop shelves probably about mid-July. So if you did pre-order these based on that announcement, of October, you're probably getting an email or a phone call from your dealer now. If not, I highly recommend that after this show, if there's something that you really like, that you may get in contact with your dealer. It's possible that they ordered more than just pre-orders alone, and you could get a chance to pick up one of these new models. We're starting in 2013, BNSF. These are those heritage hoppers. Now, a couple of years ago, BNSF did some heritage equipment, which were these hoppers. Not exactly what we rail fans really wanted, however, we'll take it. And it's really cool to see something like the Portland, Spokane, and Seattle logo applied to modern freight cars like this. BNSF did this to a lot of their previous predecessor railroads, and this is one of them. Now, this is the only car that's available for this heritage type car. So if you are a modeler of 2013 and above, you can definitely justify picking this car up. It's not the only heritage car that we did, however. We also did the Frisco car as seen here. Again, same era, 2013 on up, and it's the only one of its kind. These are based on the prototype, so you're going to want to add these to your fleet if you're a BNSF modeler. Now, going back to BNSF modelers, if you're a modeler of the BNSF after the 2005 era, you're probably going to want to add these to your fleet as well. We're offering the standard Trinity hoppers in their standard paint scheme for 2007 era on up. And we're going to offer those in 2 3-car sets. Now, like always, you can see the different road numbers in the different set that's not pictured on your screen. However, you can also hit the video link in the description below and see the original announcement art and see the different numbers. The biggest thing is you don't have to worry about duplicating road numbers. They're all different and based on the prototype. 2007 era on up, Kansas City Southern. Very timely release, actually. I mean, it's hard to believe that Kansas City Southern is now a fallen flag. This is a really cool paint scheme, and believe it or not, that is not really a black. It's a dark, dark Brunswick green, but the colors just work well. Now, Kansas City Southern did, in fact, paint a lot of their covered hoppers in this paint scheme. We wanted to offer them for you. And as such, we've offered them as 2 singles. One is pictured on your screen now, as well as an additional single, and 2 3-car sets. What's really cool and stands out about these are the blue painted end caps or rotating bearing caps. Now, just as a reminder, every time you do get a Genesis model like this, you'll get a poly bag with spares because let's face it, it's an operating piece of machinery, and sometimes you need to do some maintenance, or maybe you're transporting it and you lose one. You've got a spare that's included with your model. Another one that was extremely popular, and I'm sure the pre-order showed it, was the Iowa Interstate. We're offering this 2013 plus car as two different singles. So if you've got a small shelf layout, but you really need that Iowa Interstate feel, you can add those to your fleet relatively easily. However, if you want more, we've offered two 3-car sets, giving you the possibility of a good sized chunk of Iowa Interstate property. Incobarasa Industries Ltd. These cars stand out. I mean, that green, let's face it, we've offered these in the past in the Prime for Grime, and so that green would fade, but here's what they kind of look like when they're somewhat new in 2005. Now, we're offering this as the single that you see on your screen right now. That's the only single. And additionally, we're going to be offering two 3-car sets. And Cargill, if you are a modern, almost like right now modeler, this is the car for you. This is a 2020 era car. Definitely another one that was highly requested. Cargill, of course, can be seen all over the United States and Canada. This car is being offered in two different singles as well as a 3-car set. Now, I encourage you to go and look at the announcement art that's in the link in the video description below, because these have subtle differences. The way the conspicuity stripes have been added to the car is in different locations. And again, remember, these are Genesis cars, so they're based on the prototype. So where markings are in the prototype is where they will be on the model. Really cool release, and the newest one out of this announcement. Next, we have 1997. So we're going from the most modern to the oldest one in this run, Tate & Lyle. This is a 1997 era car. You don't see the conspicuity stripes on these cars because that was something that came out later, about 2005 or so. So if you're one of those fans, like maybe you're like me and you like early BNSF stuff, you might want to add these to your fleet. We're offering them as two singles as well as two 3-car sets. So a lot of cars in this run are mainly for you modern guys, 1997 to 2020 and everything in between. Here's another one that stands out, and I mean that bright blue, you can't miss it. This is Trinity Industries Leasing. We're going to be offering this as well with two different singles if you just want to add one or two to your fleet. However, if you want to build up a whole fleet of these, you can. There's two 3-car sets that are coming. These are 2010 era cars, so still relatively modern. And then, yes, trigger warning. I always have to throw a trigger warning out there for the haters. But for as many hates that we get for these, we get more likes. Like them or not, these cars sell. Anything legendary liveries will sell. And this is, again, kind of based on the plausible. Since we did the Heritage BNSF cars, we thought, wouldn't it be cool if Union Pacific did something similar, but maybe took it a step further? So here we are presenting to you the Union Pacific Fallen Flags Legendary Livery Set. Now, as you can see, you've got the Southern Pacific, the Denver Rio Grande, and the Chicago Northwestern, all in their original colors and styles and logos. Now, they're going to be available as a 3-car set, like you see here. In fact, we're offering two 3-car sets, but maybe you're a fan of one railroad over the other and you'd rather just get one or maybe two out of the 3. You can do that because, as you can see on your screen, we are offering these as singles. Now, these would roughly put these in 1996 era. Again, this is legendary liveries, so that's an alternate timeline. But if you wanted that timeline, 1996 would be your starting point. Now, let's talk about the features of these cars, and they're packed. Now, these Athearn Genesis cars are perfect for the guy that's got a home layout. Maybe you've got a club layout. There is so much detail packed into these, and again, since they're Genesis, they're based on the prototype. These are all going to feature a separate brake, cylinder, valve, and air reservoir with wire brake plumbing. Beautiful. You can see that on the end. Really holds up to the most diehard modeler. Coupler, cut lever, and air hoses, of course, that's standard for a Genesis model. All Genesis models will have a cut lever as well as an air hose. The other thing that I like about these is they've got the nice fine metal etched roof walks. Really nicely done, really looks good. And you want to be careful with them. They are delicate because it's, again, metal etched. So when picking these up and moving them, try to pick them up from the sides. The top is very delicate. Separately applied end cages and etched end platforms. Remember the days of when we had that done in plastic? Well, it looks so much better in metal etched. It really captures the prototype look and feel of the car. Now, the other thing for you guys that you're going to want to know is these have a standard size coupler draft gearbox with screw mounted lid. What does that mean exactly? We know that everybody is not fans of the McHenry coupler. However, I still think it's a better substitute than the old XF11 horn hooks. That being said, many folks out there have their standard coupler that they like to use on their models. So we've made it easier for you to adapt to the coupler of your choice. It's a real easy thing. It's something that a lot of guys will do when they're doing some weathering or things of that nature. But even if you just want to roll it right out of the box, about 5 minutes later, you can have the couplers of your choice on these cars. These come with the Genesis 100-ton trucks. They also come with the animated roller bearings. As I mentioned earlier, each car does come with a small poly bag like you see here on your screen. There are 2 extra bearing caps with those cars because let's face it, it is a moving operating thing. And if you're taking this back and forth to the club layout, stuff sometimes gets lost. Well, we wanted to help you out there, and so we include 2 with each car. Now, the minimum radius on these, believe it or not, is 18 inches. However, because they are a scale model, they're based on the prototype, they really shine at 22 inches or above. So if you've got a nice size home layout, you can definitely take part of these. Shelf guys, don't worry. Even if you just got a small shelf layout, these will still look good on your layout. If you've got a 4x8, and there's no shame in that, you can still run these on there with that 18-inch radius. However, we're just saying that just because it's a Genesis model, it looks better with a 22 on up radius. So there you have it. Like I said, these are going to be available probably about mid-July. We're expecting the shipment to hit our DC any day now, and then they'll go out to hobby dealers. So if you haven't gotten an email or a phone call from your dealer, you might want to touch base with them. I think these are all going to sell really well. Modern cars are getting more popular, and Athearn is responding to that demand by offering cars like this. Now let's stay within the Genesis world, but let's switch scales. Let's talk N scale. Now these N scale cars, we're also going to change dates a little bit. We're going to go back to the late 60s into the 1980s with this offering. Now these are the ACF 2970 covered hoppers, and these are extremely popular. And if you're like me and you have a small shelf layout in N scale, these are a great addition because of their size. In fact, one of my industries does take these types of cars. So you can probably guess I've probably ordered a few of them. So for this run, we offered Chicago Northwestern. This is a 1980s car. You can definitely get that into the 90s with some weathering if you like and some additional decals. Great little car. All of these cars are going to include cut levers as well as air hoses, something that was previously only seen in HO scale. Also, all of these cars are available as 2 different singles as well as a 3-car set. As you can see here, we've got 175, 106 on your screen. That's the one single as well as the other one that's pictured on your screen. And then there's a 3-car set. Now, I put the road numbers there because that way you know you're not getting duplicating road numbers, even in N scale. However, if you still don't believe me, you can hit the select the link in the video description below for the N scale announcement of these. We announced these back in 2023, and they are finally getting here, and we couldn't be happier. Here's Erie, Lackawanna. You can probably guess, since I'm modeling the Northeast, I'm probably going to pick up a few of these. These are mid-1970s, and they're prime for grime. Yes, N-scale guys also get to get prime for grime. Now you'll notice that the maroon Erie Lackawanna and logo and lettering is kind of faded out, and the gray is kind of a whitish color. What we've done is we've offered you a starting point for weathering. And these cars are perfect for that. Now, not only that, but even if you're a fan of the 1980s era, with a little bit of work with decals and some extreme weathering, you can definitely bring this up to your era of the 1980s. However, out of the box, these are going to be mid-1970s cars, and feel comfortable running them with Conrail because there's no shame in that. Anybody that's modeling the Northeast, specifically Conrail era on up, you're going to want to pick up some of these cars. Going back to 1967 with the Rio Grande here, Rio Grande continues to be one of our most popular roads. And so we're going to be offering this car pretty much as it appeared in 1967 as 2 different singles as well as a 3-car set. Now, what's really cool about the 3-car set is they come in a little box about the size of an 8-track. And if you know what that is, then you're my age or older. Indiana's best Monon. We offered these as well. This is a 1969 era car, but you can definitely push this into the 70s, maybe even to the 80s with some decal work. These cars are extremely popular, both with N scale and HO scale guys. And we wanted to offer these again. So again, we're going to offer these in 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. Going back again to 1967, we've got Northern Pacific. These cars are perfect for you Northern Pacific modelers, but BN guys, take notice. Early BN modelers may want to pick up some of these as well because BN was not in a rush to repaint these. Something else that you may want to do, I've seen a lot of guys do it in both HO and N scale, is patch these over. There are some decal sets available out there, so if you want to run in a later BN era, you can patch these out for BN reporting marks, but keep the original artwork. It makes for a very interesting model, especially when it's done and weathered. Again, 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. And the last one in the run is the Bay State Milling. Neat little car, 1970 on up. Again, with some decal work. If you want to push this into the 1980s, you certainly can. We're going to be offering this in 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. Now, these little cars may be little, but they're big on detail. Let's talk about it. The first thing that you're going to notice with these N-scale cars is the fine metal etched roof walk. Back in the days when I first got into N-scale, this was done in plastic, and it was okay, but the scale thickness of that thing looked like, I don't know, 2 feet thick. Well, metal etch really gives us a much better representation of what the prototype looks like. Even though these are small, they're going to have detailed outlets, and based on the prototype, since these are Genesis models, they will either have the round or the trough style hatches as seen here. You're also going to have separate brake cylinder, valve, and air reservoir with brake plumbing. You can see on the end there, all of that is right there. These little cars are amazing. The fact that they're about the size of a small candy bar, I guess you could say. They're not very big, but they've got all of that detail. Now, the thing that I really like about these is they have body-mounted McHenry operating scale knuckle couplers. Body-mounting couplers in N-scale is a game changer. Because if you're someone like me that's got a small shelf layout and you're going back and forth, not just in a straight line forward, these hold up so much better. They track better. They're easier to switch out of your spurs and such. It's just a much better design. And most N-scale manufacturers now are going with that design. Gone are the days of the old coupler, Talgo mounted style couplers. This is definitely a Genesis item, and if you want to, you can switch these out for other couplers. I'm not going to say they're a drop-in fit based on my experience. However, they can be adapted for other brands of couplers if you wish. The other thing, separately apply to wire grabs and brake wheel. The brake wheel, you'll notice, even in N-scale, if you were to do this in plastic, it'd be really thick. These are a nice metal etched wheel that captures the look and feel. And of course, you've got any grab irons. Instead of being molded on, they're actual separate grab irons. Now, the minimum radius on these guys is 9 3/4, which means if you wanted to operate these on a small layout or even T-track, you could. Since they are so detailed, I keep these on my home layout because, let's face it, transporting these back and forth to shows is where they sometimes start losing parts. But if you get a home layout and you really like the scale fidelity of the Athearn Genesis N scale, these are your go-to models, especially if your layout is set a little bit higher than your average layout. Then you can really appreciate all of those details that you see here. So great little cars. Again, these will be in mid-July. And you're going to want to talk to your dealer now. Now, a little bit of deja vu, but these are the Athearn HO scale versions of what we just talked about. We won't go into a lot of detail about the road numbers or the eras, but you're going to see some subtle differences because, believe it or not, the Athearn Genesis N scale versions are actually more detailed than the HO scale versions. But don't worry, there's still plenty of detail there. The Athearn line is great because you have the details that your eyes are going to see the most common of. So if you're into operations, you might not want to have a cut lever. Might get in the way of you switching out cars. The Athearn HO scale is the perfect operating car because, again, you've got just enough detail to satisfy most rivet counters, but not so over the top that it's extremely delicate and breakable. So here we have Chicago Northwestern, 1980s again, and we're going to offer these just like we did with the N scale as 2 different singles as well as a 3-car set. You guys also get the Erie Lackawanna in the Prime for Grime. Really cool car. You can see from this picture that you still get quite a bit of detail. You just don't have the air hose and the cut lever, but all the other stuff, you're still going to have it. So these are really nicely done cars. Another thing I want to let you guys know, these are actual production run samples. These aren't prototypes. These are actual production run. So what you're seeing here is the actual HO scale car. The previous ones were the N scale cars. 67 era Rio Grande, of course, you get the option of 2 singles as well as a 3-car set, or you can get all of them to boost up your fleet. This is how they appeared in 1967. If you want to model further into the 70s, you can definitely do that with some additional decals as well as some weathering. Indiana's finest, Monon, is here for you as well. 1969 era car. Again, 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. The 3-car set's a little bit bigger than an 8-track. Just going to give you that warning, just so you know. We've got Northern Pacific for you as well, 1967. And same thing, HO guys, if you're into the Burlington Northern, you can justify these either as is or with a little bit of patchwork and decal work and weathering. You can pick these up as 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. And just like N scale, you have the Bay State Milling Company. We're going to offer these cars in 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. Really cool prototype, and really happy to offer these. Now let's talk about the features of these cars. So even though these are Athearn, you still have the same option as the Genesis cars, whether the HO or N scale. You have the fine metal etched roof walks, just like Genesis does. So again, you're going to want to grab these by the side. Very delicate, but man, that looks so much better than the blue box era of the thick plastic roof walks. You have detailed outlets. Now with the HO scale cars, you have additional parts that come in a poly bag. I'm holding that up to the screen now. Each car comes with a poly bag with additional details to add for your outlets. Again, based on the prototype, these are going to have either the round or the trough style hatches. And even though these are Athearn, pay attention to this, you still get the separately applied brake gear, including the brake wheel, brake cylinder, valve and air reservoir, and wire brake plumbing. So very similar to Genesis, you still get a lot of packed detail. Really the only thing you don't have in these cars that Genesis does is a cut lever and air hoses, which if you really want to, you can apply those pretty easily by using aftermarket manufacturers' parts. Let's see, you also have body-mounted McHenry scale knuckle couplers, again, because who wants horn hooks? We're going to offer these with those couplers. Now, if you want to switch these out, you can. Again, it's really simple. Just remove the trucks, and with a small screwdriver, you can take the cover off and add the couplers of your choice. It's probably a 5-minute job, but from the factory, they're already compatible with all those major brands of scale couplers. Factory applied wire grab irons and stirrup steps. Again, back in the blue box days, your stirrup steps and your grab irons were molded on and kind of chunky looking. Well, these have stepped into the 21st century, and now they've got wire grab irons and wire stirrup steps. They look so much better than the original. The thing that I really like about these is they do include metal wheel sets. That's where the weight should be, down below. They track so much better. I really like metal wheel sets, whether it be N-scale or HO. And of course, everything that we're offering here has got metal wheel sets. Finally, what's the minimum radius on these cars? 18 inches. 18 inches is great because, again, maybe you've got a 4x8 layout. There's no shame in that. There's some beautiful 4x8 layouts out there. There's no reason why you can't enjoy these. They'll go on an 18-inch radius without any issues. And of course, if you're like me and you just have a small shelf layout, and make the perfect addition for your industries that you may be modeling. Now, if you're into a modular type prototype or modular type club, say Fremo, these are perfect for that too, because they transport relatively easy, whether you use the original box or in one of the aftermarket container. There's just enough detail, again, to satisfy the people that like to see those details, but not so much detail that they become delicate. So there you have it. Now these, again, will be available through your Athearn dealer in a couple of weeks, depending on when you're watching this program. If you're watching this July 1st, then you'll probably see these in a couple of weeks. However, if you're watching them later in July, they're already available. One thing that I do want to let you know about all of these cars, these were pre-orders that were open back in 2023. And if you got a pre-order, then you'll probably be hearing from your Athearn dealer. If you did not pre-order, but you still like a lot of the cars that you've seen on tonight's program, then what you're going to want to do is contact your dealer immediately. Because while they may have fulfilled all of their pre-orders, they may have ordered extra, and you may be able to get one of these cars. However, in the future, I highly recommend pre-orders. Well, that's all I've got for you. The next part of the program, we've got some operations. We're going to do some operations in both HO and N-scale, featuring all the cars that we've talked about. So let's get started with some operations. The new Athearn Genesis GP40-2L for Guilford. It's still roaming around the layout. And we've got a couple of cars here. But let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and switch out our Heritage Frisco with that Kansas City Southern. Do a nice slow roll so you can see that Heritage. This is the Frisco BNSF car. Now again, if you didn't know about the 40-2s, we had a run of GP 40-2s that started shipping about a month ago. Now, I will tell you, the Guilford Rail actually sold really well, so you may be hard-pressed to find one of those unless you're pre-ordered. We're going to move past our turnout here. And off camera, throw that manually. A lot of you folks may be wondering, why is your layout not done? Well, we don't have a professional model builder in-house or a budget for that. All of us, including product development, have our own layouts. This is a layout that's a work in progress. And as I've said in previous Train Tuesdays, ironically enough, when you work in the industry, you don't have as much time to work on your layouts. I'm going to try to get this guy coupled up here. Looks like he's right on the curve, so I'm going to have to cheat a little bit. Been a little bit since I've used the hammerhead. I'm used to my proto throttle. So while I'm here, pay attention to the Kansas City Southern. You'll see that it's got the blue painted bearing caps. Kind of a cool feature. And again, you've got all of that nice metal etched detail. All of your brake detail here is included. Now I'm using code 70, and those wheels will operate on all of the standard manufactured track that's available. So code 100, code 83. Move him out of the way, and off camera we'll throw that turnout. Now as we get closer to fall, you'll start to see more work being done on the layout, but for now this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead and back that beautiful Kansas City Southern Bell paint scheme covered hopper back on the main. And remember, you have the animated bearing caps, rolling bearing caps. You also have 2 extras that are included with your model, just in case you lose them. And we'll connect to our Athearn car just off from camera. And while these guys set the brakes, we're going to go ahead and switch scales and go over to the N scale layout and see the ACFs in N scale by Genesis. All right, we've moved over to the N scale layout. And no drop-offs today. I'm going to pick up a couple of these Athearn Genesis 2970 ACFs. And again, guest duties go to my Burlington Northern unit here. Let's go ahead and pick those cars up on the neighboring spur. Now the cars in the forefront are on code 55 track, and the ones on the spur in the background, those are on code 40 track. So those metal wheel sets are perfect if you're into the finer scale rail. I've had 0 issues with these on code 40. I really like the detail. My layout is set a little bit higher than most layouts in N scale. Right about 54 inches from the floor. So as you can see, they roll very nicely over code 40. No issues. You can see the air hoses and the cut levers there. I will remind you though, since these are very nicely scaled models, pay attention to your track work. You're going to want to have some really nice track work in order for these to function correctly. So we're going to go ahead and bring these out of the spur and back onto the main and connect with our cars currently waiting. So even if you've got a small layout, my layout here is only 6 feet long. It only has 2 customers and a team track. You can have a lot of operating interest, just like the HO scale guys, in a minimum of space. This is essentially two 3-foot T-track modules stuck together to make my rendition of where I grew up. There you have it. Now, one thing I want to show, out of the box, ready to go. These are ready to go. The couplers, just because of the physical size of them, they may need to be freed up a little bit. You can see that kind of stuck. That's normal. There is some graphite that you can put in there to make those open a little bit more freely. But pretty much out of the box, these are ready to go. These are great little models. Again, these are going to be available in hobby shops about mid-June. And of course, everything you see here is available as 2 singles as well as a 3-car set. All right, since we got done with the N scale, this crew has returned. We're going to go ahead and swap out our ACFs. Slightly different vantage point this time. Let's go ahead and pull forward of the spur. We'll go ahead and my turnouts on the HO layout are manual while they're servo operated on the N scale layout. So if you hear a click, that is just the finger sliding the turnout over. I have not decided if I'm going to go with servo or just manual on this layout. All right. Go ahead and reverse in there and pick up our Chicago Northwestern ACF. Letting those Athearn Genesis Trinities go by. Again, if you're a modern modeler, you're going to want to add these. Even if you just have a small shelf layout like I do. Really nicely detailed. A lot of folks have been asking about this tool that I'm using. I'll zoom in on it a little bit. This is by Rick's Products. They're available at most hobby shops. It works with both my HO and N scale. And definitely saves you from breaking cut levers. So we're going to go ahead and pull ahead forward. We'll get the Chicago Northwestern in the camera view there. Older car, definitely 1980s era. And we're going to drop off the Erie Lackawanna car. Go ahead and pull back and pick him up. So with the Athearn ACF 2970s, you don't get the rotating bearing caps. You don't get the cut levers or air hoses. However, if you've got a shelf layout or even just a regular layout and you want to add those, there are aftermarket companies that provide those detail parts. Pretty simple to put on, but really right out of the package, they're very nicely detailed. Now, these are brand new out of the box. And again, if you want to switch out the couplers, they're very easy on both of these cars. All right, we'll go forward. Now, as the Erie Lackawanna car goes by, I'll slow it down a little bit so you can see. Previous Prime for Grime cars had faded paint, faded logos, things of that nature, but a lot of our customers said, well, they look off, and that was because they were still glossy. You'll notice with this car and subsequently other Prime for Grime releases, they're going to be dull coat right out of the factory. They already got a matte finish, so you can see there it's already flat. You don't have to. In the past, you would have to use some type of matte medium You don't have to do that anymore. They're ready to weather right out of the box. So that's a new improvement that we brought to you in the last year based on your feedback. Now, of course, you can always go and send us an email at athearnproductsuggestions@athearn.com for any time you want to see a new model. Maybe you want to see a current model in your favorite railroad, or maybe you've got some other ideas. You can email us at athearn-productsuggestions@athearn.com. That being said, I want to remind everybody that that is a suggestion email. It doesn't mean that just because you submitted your email, that means we're going to build it. And it doesn't mean we're going to build it right away. Sometimes requests take a couple of years to actually do. Now, we look at all those requests and we base it on popularity. We are still a business, so we want to make sure that what we're producing is going to sell. And if there's a lot of demand for it, you know, say like these Kansas City Southern cars, there was a lot of demand for those. So we produce them. It also means that, again, you're not going to see that release right away. Sometimes it takes years before we're ready to run a specific prototype and that specific road is available for us to use on that specific model. And one last thing about the Athearn product suggestion email, it does not guarantee a two-way conversation. I've had people approach me at shows really irate with me because we're not talking about the good old days. That's not the intent of that email. The intent of that email is strictly for product suggestions. You type, "Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to see a Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy SD40 lettered for the CNS." You drop that in there, and when it comes time for us to make decisions for new production runs, we will consider it. Drop him off. And that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We had a lot of stuff to talk about, but hopefully you're enjoying this with a nice tall glass of iced tea or whatever your favorite beverage is. Like everything, I want to remind you that everything that we talked about, there are links in the video description below that you can see the new announcements, or I'm sorry, the announcements for these models. Also, don't forget, pre-orders are open for the May-June packet. You've got until July 25th to place those pre-orders, so don't miss out on those new items. And like always, I want to wish everyone out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, and do some good modeling. Until next time, everyone, have a great summer.